Richard Johnson, SEC Network. Coach, you had some interesting comments to the Texas high school coaches about work-life balance and trying to find the middle road there. What were your conversations with Matt Luke about that before he left coaching?
Well, I tried to convince him to stay. There were heartfelt conversations that probably need to stay between Matt and I, but he loves the game of football. The game of football has blessed he and his family tremendously. He'd be the first to tell you that. He is a family man, and the sacrifices that coaches make today, and look, I'm not whining and complaining. Don't think that I'm upset. I love my profession. I love what I do, and I do it every day all over again, being a high school coach if I could, because I love the profession. But it's tough on the time demands, and I think he felt like there's some purity lost in the game because guys were playing not necessarily for the education or for each other, or they were playing, for the NIL opportunity or maybe for the NFL. And it's tough sometimes as a coach when you find that and you're like, well, I'm away from my kids and I don't get an opportunity to be at their baseball games and grow and do the things they need to do. And he was very appreciative of the opportunity, the time spent. His family still lives in Athens, and I actually just had part of my summer vacation spent with his family. So we still have a great relationship, but I respect a person that's willing to make that kind of decision when they feel like it's right for their family.
To your right, Coach, third row.
Tyler Shaw with KBTX and College Station. Coach, how do you keep that kind of hungry mentality and make sure that the team has that mentality when they're coming off a national championship?
Well, you don't change. You don't change who you are. You don't change the way you go about things. There's no stone left unturned when you're the leader of the organization. You're trying to always be relevant. You're trying to stay on top of things. You're trying to monitor things. You're looking for a better way to do things. I was very fortunate to work for one of the best in the business at doing it after winning one, and a lot of those same habits we had already created. So the question and narrative is, you just won one, how things change. Well, we had 5 straight years of finishing in the top 7. Those were pretty good years. We had to come back after those good years. We lost good players those years. So I'm looking at it as we're going to continue to do the same things we do, but how do we refine the process? How do we do the process better this time than we did last time? That's what we're trying to do.
To your left, Coach, fourth row.
Jacob Goins, ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. The Auburn and Georgia rivalry has become one of the best and always has been one of the best in college football. What do you expect to see from Brian Harsin and Auburn in year 2 and the matchup between you guys in week 6?
A lot of respect for Coach Harsin, a lot of respect for Auburn University, and it's probably where I grew up in Bainbridge was closer to there than anywhere other than maybe Florida State. So got a lot of respect for that rivalry game. It's one of the first games I remember going to as a child, being on the sideline and seeing Pat Dye before the game, before they played Georgia. It was cool for me growing up, a high school coach's son, because I got to go to both those games, home and away. So respect the rivalry, expect it to continue that way, and looking forward to an opportunity to play them, obviously at our place this year.
To your right, Coach, second row.
Hey, Coach, Ben Bobick, Local 3 in Chattanooga. Last year you said Lad McConkey is the best thing about college football. What did you mean by that, and how have you seen him become a leader in your locker room now that he's been there for a few years?
He loves the game. He has this passion for the game, and it's contagious. He was a kid that I watched 2 or 3 clips of, and then I saw a YouTube video, then I saw him do a combine, and I was like, well, why are not more people recruiting him? Because he may be a little small, I don't know. He's really fast. He timed well. He loves the game. He's tough. Great basketball player. So we went and said, let's do the immeasurable thing, and let's see if we can offer him a scholarship to get him to come to Georgia. And he took it, and he practices every day as hard as he possibly can. He loves the game. He loves the University of Georgia, and he's what's right about the sport. Because for him to capitalize on NIL and opportunities, it's not really about that for him. It's about winning games for his brothers and fighting for his teammates. And I appreciate the way he plays the game.
On the aisle, fourth row.
Hey, Coach, Michael Giddens, War Report, Auburn. Can you talk about how challenging it is to have to play a good team twice in one season? And do you feel like maybe the SEC championship game loss provided a blueprint for you to game plan in the national title game against Alabama?
Well, I think it's really hard to play anybody twice, especially the team that won the first game, because just the mental part of the human nature is to relax if you think you're better than somebody or you've beaten somebody. And the underdog opponent is always going to have some kind of competitive mental advantage if you allow them to. I think I told somebody we were maybe favored in every game last year. I don't know about the last game, but I know we were favored in almost every game. So psychologically, that can wear on you if you don't prepare the right way mentally. But I don't think having played in that SEC game the first time gave us some blueprint for the second game. I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest difference was our ability to stop people on third down, because when you don't stop them on third down, you play too many snaps. And we played really well in the red area where we didn't do that well in the previous game.
To your right, Coach, third row.
Morning, Coach. Wes Blankenship on 3. When it comes to recruiting, is that something that came naturally to you early in your career, or did you have to learn from other coaches, refine that, and pick that up as you kept going further into your career? And if you can remember, how did your first attempt at recruiting a player go?
Man, you're going way back. I think you evolve as a recruiter, right? So you don't just stay the same. If you stay the same, you get passed by. So it's really cool when you think about I feel like I've been recruiting forever, and I'm 46. So my first job, I got cut by the Indianapolis Colts. I was recruiting for Georgia in 1999, I think it was, maybe 2000. I'm recruiting there, and I'm relatively young, and I was a different recruiter then than I am now. But my first recruiting story was probably at FSU. Because at Valdosta State, we had to recruit kids, but it wasn't as high profile. You had to wait and see where kids went. But I was a GA at FSU, and a coach told me one time, he said, "You want to be considered for an assistant coach job? You want to be treated like an assistant coach? Dress, act, and recruit like one. And when you're a GA, nobody will treat you like a GA." He said, "They'll treat you like an assistant coach if you act, behave, and present yourself that way in everything you do, whether it's shaving before work, whether it's how you dress." And I thought, okay. So I approached it like I was an assistant coach. And I remember I recruited a kid out of Jacksonville, Florida. I think he played at Mandarin High School, but Tony Carter. I started recruiting him. I was allowed to go work camps, so I went and worked at camp he was at. I got to be around him for 3 or 4 days. I got a really good relationship with him. I was a graduate assistant at FSU, and I ended up signing him, and he was a top player in the country. And it let me know, it gave me the confidence that, you know what, I can go against these other coaches, even though I'm a graduate assistant. I think I've got a good bond with players. I played the position, and it was my first real recruiting battle. And he's now a coach, so he stays in touch. He comes and visited, and he played the NFL for about 10 years. But he's a great young man, and he's my first recruiting story.
Third row, and then pass your microphone one over. Okay.
Hey, Coach. Georgia Chambers, WFF 48 in Huntsville. Some players said that the team buy-in from last season set last season apart from others. Is there anything in particular that you credit this to?
Yeah, I've talked a little bit about it, about the skull sessions and the commitment we had to our kind of team DNA. So we spent a lot of time last off season coming off of the COVID season on bonding as a team. We sacrificed a lot of meeting time on football to say, you know what, let's just get in these groups and have these open sessions and have these hot mic sessions where you can come in and talk about anything you want to talk about and get to know somebody. And I don't know, the players really bought into it, and they don't do it unless you do. So we had, I don't know what you would call them, informational packets each week. The coaches had to present this material, almost like a curriculum, like you're teaching a class. And I thought that the coach buy-in made the players buy in. Therefore, there was this really great connection that the players enjoyed being around. They embraced that. They thought that was a weapon, like a pass play.
We're going to stay on the third row.
Hey, Coach. Mary Alex Anders, WSWG. So even after the success Georgia had last year, how do you think that Stetson can grow as a quarterback going into the season?
Well, he can be a better leader. He can make more plays with his feet. And I think when you put someone in the role as the quarterback and they're the starter, they immediately get some credibility. He probably didn't have that credibility this time last year. He had not been put in that role. He's earned that role. He's earned the right to start. He's embraced it. He takes that responsibility head on, and he chose to come back, after winning a national championship and said, I want to go do something special. I want to go play football. I want to enjoy the game. I think it's just kind of who he is. And the biggest thing he can do for us is make sure that he's throwing more touchdowns than he is interceptions. That's what I tell him all the time. Keep that touchdown-to-interception ratio the right way and make plays. He's got a lot of good players around him.
To your right, Coach, back row.
Hey, Coach Ryan Curley, Dog Post. Stetson being the starter, being the guy going into it this season, what are the biggest differences you've seen in his chemistry in the offense and then just him in general with an offseason where he knows that he's the starter?
The biggest difference is his confidence. You know, I never questioned his confidence, but the confidence in the players around him is much greater than previously. So it's hard to measure that in terms of numbers or statistics, but I expect him to have a really good year because he's got more players around him that believe in him, and they've seen him do it.
We have time for 2 questions right here in the third row, and then we're going to come to the front.
Hey, Coach Mark, Alice Mastrangelo with WSB. We saw a really cool moment in the hallway between Nolan Smith and head coach Sam Pittman. They embraced each other. Nolan's like, "Can I hug you?" And they did, and they shared some words. What does it just say about the program, even after coaches move on, that they still have that special relationship with the guys?
Well, it's the bond of a coach. You know, I felt that way when I left Alabama or left other places to go somewhere, and you see those guys. I still remember, you know, the national championship game we lost, seeing Minka, who's a kid I recruited really hard, spent a lot of time with his family, and got to know them so well. And you see him grow and have success, and then all of a sudden you run into him and you're going against him. You know, and it makes it a special bond, and just that's the kind of person that Sam is, and he commands respect from both sides of the ball. I mean, Sam Pittman didn't coach Nolan Smith. You know, he went against him. But there's a bond there, and that's what's special about good people.
Final question, front row.
Hey, Coach, Jacques Doucet from WAFB-TV in Baton Rouge. I know you don't play LSU this year, but just as a prominent head coach and the national championship winning coach last year, what are your thoughts on Brian Kelly joining the league coming from Notre Dame?
Yeah, you know, I had a chance to go against Brian when he was at Notre Dame 2 years there at Georgia, and respect the job he does. I think he's very thorough, very intelligent. He has a system that he believes in. He does a tremendous job with that. Very thorough. I mean, when we played them I was at Alabama, and we played them, Notre Dame, in the national championship down in Miami. I just thought it was incredible watching their season and the way he managed their team. Just from top down organizational management, I think he's really incredible. You think all the way back to the days, I think it was Grand Valley, when he was at Grand Valley State and I was at Valdosta State. He has won. He has a system that he believes in, and that's really more about how you get success. Do you believe in what you do? And he has a great system in that.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.